All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to break down this really dense, really powerful parable called The Vertical Horizon. What this story does is it resolves a conflict from the marketplace by laying out this incredibly stark choice. You're at the foot of a mountain. Do you stay in the comfort of what you know, or do you risk a dangerous, transformative climb into the unknown?
And man, the parable doesn't pull any punches, hitting us with this chilling line right at the start. The stakes here are, well, they're absolute. This isn't just about choosing a different lifestyle. No, it's a fundamental decision between what it calls a living death and a life of radical, purposeful struggle.
So, the whole story hinges on this one choice, this fork in the road between two completely different ways of being. One path leads you back down into the safety of the valley, and the other? Well, the other leads straight up into the clouds.
Now this is where it gets really interesting because it lays out the core tension so perfectly. On one side, you've got the valley. It's described with this heavy perfume of comfort, this feeling of stagnant peace. It sounds safe, right? But you can feel the lifelessness in those words. And then on the other side, there's the ascent. It's a dangerous freedom, where the very air, the altitude of the truth, is so powerful it could literally crush your lungs. It's a choice between guaranteed, boring safety and the potential for something truly great.
So let's first take a look at the world of those who decided to stay behind. The parable calls this place the bazaar, and it's populated by these characters that represent a whole mindset. You've got the salesman, the soothsayer, and the thief.
These people are described in a pretty brutal way, as parasites seeking a host. See, they tried to climb, but that altitude of the truth was just too much for them to handle. So they scurried back to the valley, where this architect of apathy rebuilds the walls of their global cage of contentment, making sure that no real challenge, no real obstacle, ever bothers them again. Their choice is all about fear and the desperate need for an easy life.
And that's the key, right? We have to understand what these people actually want. They're looking for what the story calls a prosthetic god. Now, this isn't a god of meaning or purpose, oh no. Think of it more like a divine gadget, a mechanism designed just to make life easier, to get rid of any and all hardship, and to give them a shortcut to total comfort.
And this just brilliantly illustrates that huge split in thinking. The three beggars, your salesman, soothsayer, and thief, they're basically just ghosts trying to haunt a machine they can't even begin to understand. They want that prosthetic god. They're terrified of the climb. But the new man, he's a completely different animal. He seeks the miracle mechanism, not to make life easier, but to make it harder, more intense. He looks at the chaos of the cosmos and sees a ladder, not a mess to be cleaned up. For him, the struggle is the whole point.
So let's shift gears and focus on the new man. His climb isn't just about putting one foot in front of the other. It's a deep philosophical transformation. He uses these specific mental tools to literally rewrite his relationship with reality itself.
His first tool is called the Fichtean inversion. It's a fascinating concept. Instead of seeing gravity as this enemy holding him down, the new man uses it as the not I, an opposing force that actually lets him define himself by pushing against it. Think about a rock climber, you know? They don't fight the cliff, they use its challenges, the cracks, the ledges, to pull themselves higher. He turns the very thing holding him down into the engine that powers his ascent.
This whole transformation plays out in 3 stages. First, you've got the inversion we just talked about. Second, he fires up his Gnostic engine, this internal power source that just shatters the old, heavy ways of thinking from the world below. And third, he embraces the Anstoß. That's a German word for impulse or struggle. And by doing that, he stops being a prisoner of his circumstances and becomes the pilot of his own destiny.
And this quote, this is everything he left behind in that bazaar. It's a small, predictable, contained little life. It's safe, for sure, but it's also incredibly limited. It's a life without any real fire, any real potential.
And once his transformation is complete, that little candle is just blown out. It's not just replaced, it's completely annihilated by something overwhelming and powerful, this new state of being, at what the parable calls the summit of the singularity. He didn't just climb a mountain, he reached an entirely new plane of existence.
So what's life actually like up here at the summit? Well, the most important thing to get is that it operates by a completely different set of rules. The logic of the world down below, it just doesn't apply anymore.
I mean, think about it. At that altitude, the air is literally too thin for commerce. The core drives of the bazaar, the salesman's pitch, the thief's schemes, the soothsayer's predictions, they're all totally meaningless. There's nothing to sell, nobody to rob. All that's left is the raw, unfiltered present moment.
In this new reality, everything is governed by what's called absolute will. The new man has proven that he can rule the machine of reality, not just be some tiny cog inside of it. He's not a passive survivor, he's a dynamic, kinetic force. And with this incredible achievement, the parable declares that the adventure of the earth is officially over. But that doesn't mean the journey is.
Because here comes the twist. Just as he's at this ultimate peak, looking out into the void, his miracle mechanism starts to buzz. It's a warning. It's detected a resonance, a presence out there in the dark matter between the stars. It's something that is not from the world below. It's not a sleeper, and it's not a merchant. It's something else.
And with that one realization, the entire scale of the story just explodes. The personal struggle, the climb for his own ascent, that's all over. Now a universal conflict is about to kick off. The climb, as it turns out, was just basic training for a much, much bigger war.
And that's where the parable leaves us. The new man has made himself into the ultimate hunter on this planet. But as he leaps forward into that cosmic abyss, he's stepping into a brand new, unknown wilderness. And for the very first time, he might not be the only predator out there in the void.